So I'm recording now. So thanks everyone for joining us for the application review workshop. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the application itself, and I'm actually going to mute everybody's audio just in case you want to have something to eat or somebody is going to talk to you. You don't need to worry about talking. So I'm just going to mute everybody so that you can know that it's fine to do whatever you need to do. If somebody's talking to you, it's not going to show up on the recording. So we're going to go through the application itself, just talking about the different sections, how you fill it out, things that you need to think about immediately, and then just quirks from Northeastern because, of course, there are a few quirks based on the co-op program and the 5-year program and all of that. So I've logged into my home page, and this is the page that you'll get to once you start your application, and it does have some quick links in here. This is the application itself, and so we're going to start by going through all of this information, and you can see actually over here, I'll just point this out, that you can see the statuses of your documents. So everybody's at least going to have a transcript from Northeastern. I went to Kalamazoo College, so I have Kalamazoo here. You'll all have Northeastern. You may have other transcripts here if you took a class in high school, etc. And we'll talk about that. So you can see these transcripts have not been received. Letters of evaluation not received, and so that status will change once those things are in. So you can always come to this dashboard to see what the status is of everything in your application. So you can also from this dashboard print out your application, and before you or once you apply to request your committee letter, we do require that you print out your application. It will add another link that says print submitted application, and so you'll do that once you have submitted your application. You'll upload that to MAP, and then you'll email us to get into the queue to have your letter written. So that's something that is very important that you'll need to do. You'll also print out your transcript request forms, and we'll talk about that as we go through the application. So let's get started. We're going to start in the first category. Identifying information. This section, happily, is pretty straightforward and easy. You're just going to fill out your name. It's assigned you an ID, and you guys have all, I believe, taken the MCAT, so you should have an AMCAS ID number that you were assigned when you took the MCAT. You'll put in your birth date, where you were born, all of that information. So that first section, happily, is easy to fill out. Then we move on to the second section, and you're going to fill in your high school information. Now, colleges is when we start to come into sort of the tricky parts. So obviously, you're going to add your Northeastern, that you've come to college here at Northeastern. So you're going to enter that information, the degree that you're seeking, your major, your minor, and you're going to note that you need a transcript from Northeastern. Now, as you'll note here, it tells you if you have ever taken a post-secondary course other than your home institution, foreign coursework, including study abroad or military coursework, you have to add those schools. That includes college courses in high school or any courses taken anywhere else, even if the credit was transferred. So if you took a college level class in high school and got credit for that, you would need to get an official transcript for that, and that means that you'll add a college, so you'll enter that school's information here. This will tell you, if you only took a summer class, so sometimes people will take, for example, a sociology class over the summer because they just couldn't fit it into the schedule and they really want to take a class to prepare them for the MCAT. So that could be, a summer school class. A lot of people have done study abroad. Now, if you've done a dialogue of civilization, that's not a traditional study abroad. That is actually a Northeastern class. It just happens that the course meets someplace else, but that's a course that's designed by Northeastern. It's taught by Northeastern faculty, and you're paying Northeastern for the coursework. So that's an actual Northeastern course. That's not a study abroad class. But if you did a course at another institute, then you do have to put that down as so then you put that on there as a class that you've taken, so you'll enter that school on there. I have a question here that doesn't count for AP classes, right? So no, AP classes you will enter as a part of your Northeastern transcript, because the AP classes are recorded on your Northeastern transcript. You're going to put them on the list of classes as a part of your Northeastern transcript. You don't need anything separate from AP or the College Board. Question about college level classes. You need to, even if you didn't transfer the credit from college level courses to Northeastern, you do still need to get a transcript for those classes. So even if those classes didn't count towards graduation, even if you never use the credit, you absolutely need to add the credit. You need to get an official transcript. And the reason for that is that unfortunately there are some really sketchy people out there who will take like a year's worth of classes, completely fail them, and then just be like, well, I'm just not going to send that transcript in, and it'll be like it never happened. And that is not allowed. So if you don't report all of your coursework that you've taken, that is, the schools consider that to be really serious. That they consider that to be a really serious problem. So make sure any class that you've taken that you do have a transcript sent in, even if it's you took a class in high school from a community college and you got an A in it, you still got to send it in. So if you did study abroad coursework, so here's my study abroad coursework, and the study abroad classes are a little bit more confusing because for study abroad, they do not want transcripts from non-US schools, and that is definitely a really confusing point. So when you do study abroad classes, so you're going to add a college, so let's say, well, here, we'll just look at the study abroad that I added here. So I did study abroad in Madrid. I went to the International Institute. I click study abroad program. Then it says here, does AMCAS require an official transcript? No, they don't. And the reason is it's a foreign institute or study abroad program, and the credits were transferred. Now, if you have classes that did not transfer, then you would put foreign institute, no credits transferred. So you're still listing it there, but you're just saying it didn't transfer. You're going to note where it transferred, and then you're going to add those classes as a part of that school. And you're going to do, so this is, you're going to do a transcript waiver form. So this is basically saying I'm not, this is the transcript exception form down here. So if I click yes, that form doesn't show up. But if I click no, then there is a separate form that does show up. So it is very confusing. And so if the class appears on your transcript, you're still going to list it there. So to answer Olivia's question, you're still going to list the class there. You don't need a transcript from schools. The schools that you do need a transcript for: American schools on U.S. soil, Canadian schools, and American schools that are not on U.S. soil. And that would include, for example, American College of Thessaloniki. So if you did NUN and you did that in Greece, The American College of Thessaloniki, you do need a transcript for. If you did it in most of the other places, you don't. If you did NUN and McGill, you do need a transcript for that, and you need it sent directly from the school to AMCAS. You don't need, so even if you have a copy of it in a sealed envelope, they're not going to accept it from you. It has to go directly from the school. If the class was taken, and I think there's one in somewhere in Great Britain that is sponsored by a different school in the US. So if it's sponsored by a US school, then you need a transcript from that school. Otherwise, you just do the waiver form. So it is very confusing. There is a video that you can watch that they have, and you can look at additional information that they have here in the AMCAS guide, and there is also a video on entering foreign study coursework, and they do also have, you can also call for help if you're unclear based on the directions, and it's definitely fine to give them a call and just be like, can you just clarify, or email them and ask them. And if you email them and you do what they say in the email, then you have a paper trace. So it's not a bad idea to email them. So once you've entered your schools in, you'll come to this transcript form. Now, this part is something that you guys should be doing immediately if you haven't already done it. So each school that you've gone to, you're going to have an official transcript sent into this to AMCAS. And there are two ways that transcripts can be sent to AMCAS. They can either be sent electronically or via old-fashioned snail mail by U.S. Postal Service. So there are many schools that have a system that allows them to send information directly from their transcript office to AMCAS. They don't send the transcript via an attachment. It's some system. I don't really understand the technology of it or exactly what it is. Northeastern does not have this system, so you have to have your Northeastern transcript sent via snail mail. So what you need to do for Northeastern is you need to create this transcript request form. So you'll just click on the link, you'll pull up the transcript, you print the transcript request form, and then once you pull it up, you can see it's a couple sheets of paper. Hopefully you can read this. What you need to do with a transcript request form is you need to sign it and date it. So first you need to print it out to sign it and date it. Then you scan it, and you can go to, if you're in Boston, you can go to the media center and just scan it in there, and then email it to yourself. And then you'll go to you'll request that transcript from Northeastern. So there are two different ways to request a transcript from Northeastern. If you're a current student, you can request it on your MyNEU. If you're an alum, you will request the transcript through the transcript request site, and I sent you an email with a link to that. As you're requesting your transcript, so you go into the system and you'll tell the transcript office where you want that transcript sent. Make sure you tell them that you want it snail mail, not emailed, because AMCAS won't accept it as an attachment, which is how they send it. And then it will ask them, is there anything you want included in this transcript? And you will upload that form at that point. It's important to have your transcript request form included with their transcript, particularly for MD applicants, because they do get about 250,000 transcripts, and you want to make sure that it's easy for them to match up your application and your transcript. And it's easier to do that with that unique transcript ID form, particularly if somebody else has the same name as you or the same last name as you. Now, for study abroad, you don't need to create a transcript request form because you're not requesting a transcript. So if it's a study abroad that is that you don't need a transcript for. So if it's not a US school, an American school abroad, or a Canadian school, you don't need to get that transcript. But for all other schools, you do need to get that. For folks who just graduated, you can check on your MyNEU and see if your degree is posted. I know Northeastern is pretty fast with that, and I think that your degree should be posted right now. But look on your My Northeastern and see if it says that you're a graduate, or if it doesn't say that yet. If it doesn't say on your My NEU or on your unofficial transcripts on your My Northeastern that you're a graduate, then do say hold for degree. Oh, somebody here is saying I just graduated and my degree is posted. So yes, if they just flip a switch, so if one person's is posted, everyone should be posted, so that all of them should be posted. Here's a question. Can we have the transcript sent before submitting the primary application? Yes, absolutely. You should have it sent. This is something that you should do right now, because it will take a few business days. Northeastern's transcript office is really good. They're really on top of things, but still request it right now because they are sent out by people and people do make mistakes. It's very uncommon for Northeastern's transcript office, but it does happen. Do you need transcript request forms for US schools other than Northeastern? Yes. The caveat is that some of the schools are able to send those records electronically to so that some of the schools are able to send the transcripts electronically, and then I don't believe that you need a transcript request form, so you can call the school and see if they're able to transmit electronically directly to AMCAS, and if that's the case, you might not need that transcript request form. You're only sending one transcript out right now, so you're only sending a transcript right now from all of your schools that you've taken classes at to AMCAS, which is the application service. So what will happen is AMCAS is going to get your application, and on your application you have to write every single class that you've taken, and we'll show that a little bit later. We'll get to that section a little bit later. And oh, the physical address is written on the transcript request form. So yes, you will see it right on that form. So AMCAS will get a copy of your application with all the grades that you've written on there. We'll get to that later. They'll get a copy of all your transcripts, and they're going to look at your transcripts and what you've written on your application and make sure that they're the same. That's a verification process. So the schools don't actually get your transcripts. They will just get your application that you've written all your grades on. So for the schools, when they get your applications, it's consistent. Every school's looks pretty much the same. So they're not figuring out, well, what does this transcript mean and what does this transcript mean? Everything is exactly even for them. When you're accepted to a school, they're going to ask for an official copy of your transcript. So they are going to ask for official copies of your transcripts later when you've been accepted. But right now, the only thing that you need to do is send a copy of your transcripts from all US and Canadian schools to AMCAS. And if the school is able to send it electronically, do that. But if they're not able to send it electronically, then you send it as a snail mail. Now, if they say they can send it electronically, make sure to ask, because AMCAS won't accept it as an email attachment because it's too easy for people to, make that up. So it has to be through their system. So ask, do you send this as an electronic attachment, or is it through the system to AMCAS? And if they say it's an attachment, then get it through paper with the transcript request form. Okay, sorry. I know that is really confusing. Hopefully everybody understands that. So we'll move on. Previous matriculation, have you ever been a medical student? Presumably everybody's answer is no. Institutional actions, you do need to report any time that you had to go before Oscar. If you, let's say, had to go before an RD, that is not Oscar, that's not a judicial affairs action. You must answer yes, even if the action does not appear or has been deleted or expunged from your official transcripts due to institutional policy or personal petition. So for Northeastern, um, oh, for Northeastern, um, for Northeastern Oscar, they expunge all records after graduation. You do still have to um, report any judicial affairs violations. If they find out that you left a judicial affairs violation off your application, they will rescind an acceptance. If you're at the school, they may throw you out of the school. They are really serious about this stuff. So even if it's a little thing, put it on there. I put a sample on here. If it's something like I was caught with alcohol, don't make a big deal out of it. If you were caught with alcohol 3 times, that's going to be a bigger deal, and you better write a bigger explanation for it. If you were caught once in your freshman year, um, that's not really going to be a huge problem for you. So sorry, here's one more question about transcripts. Do we send the official transcript request form to Northeastern? You're going to upload it as a part of the request for your transcript as you're going through the transcript request process on your MyNEU. So as you're requesting the transcript on your MyNEU, it will enable you to upload documents, and you'll upload that transcript request form as a part of that request. Okay, biographic information. Let's move on. So we're going to start with preferred address. So this will be your current address. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, okay, I'm going to be moving soon because I just graduated. You can put down a permanent address that's different. This is my mom's address. So you can put that down. They're probably not going to mail anything to you. They sometimes, if you do want an address in their system that's different from the one that you may move from, you may want to have a parent's address in there just so they have something different on the record. They do have this alternate contact information. Do you want to designate an alternate contact? So it's not a bad idea to have somebody like a parent or somebody who's close to you just in case something happens and for whatever reason you don't have access to your email, somebody who can contact them for you. Now, very important caveat, that does not mean they should contact them for you. The biggest reason that you would have this is, let's say that you're going to be away someplace really remote and you're not going to have access. So you're going to be off volunteering in remote Peru for a while and you're not going to have access to the internet. That's the time you want to have an alternate contact. It's fine to do this in case of emergency, but please do not have your mother calling the schools because that is not going to help you. That's going to be a red flag for the schools. So question here, my preferred address will change in September. Should I just include my summer address? Yes, just include your summer address for now. You can update them later, and you may have to send updates to all of the schools, but that's fine. It's never a bad thing to have a reason to contact the school and just be like, hey, just want to let you know I've moved. This is my new preferred address. Maybe when they're putting that in, they're like, oh, wow, why haven't we invited this person for an interview? So it's not a bad thing to have something to update. Just use your current address. Really, nobody sends anything via snail mail anymore anyhow. Citizenship, state residence. This is the next question. Do you have a legal residence in the U.S.? So most people will put for their legal residence the state that they grew up in and went to high school in. It can be a little bit tricky if you're no longer living there, your parents are no longer living there. So you really do want to, um, well, it does say you can look at the procedure in the applicant guide. You really want to make sure that you're following the residency requirements for the state that you grew up in or the state that you're claiming. And sometimes you can change your residence. It's really hard to change to Massachusetts residence. So for Massachusetts, you have to live here and pay state taxes here for 7 years. I think because there's so many people coming here for college, they don't want people coming here and claiming Mass residence to apply to UMass. Other places like California, you have to live there for a year and change your driver's license and register to vote. So if you have lived in California, let's say you graduated, you moved to California and you've lived there for over a year, you may be able to claim California residence, but you do want to just check with the legal requirements on that. For most people, it is the state that you grew up in, because that's where your family has paid taxes for your life. Self-identification. It is definitely a good idea to check off how you self-identify, particularly if you don't self-identify as white. You want to let the schools know how you self-identify. They are looking to bring in a diverse class of students. And so, they want to get a sense of who are we looking at here in terms of applicants. For languages, number one, please add all languages you speak, including English. Do not forget to put English on there. I have seen people forget to do that. For additional languages that you add, it lets you choose your proficiency and really be thoughtful in terms of what level you choose. If you choose something like advanced or fluent, you could wind up having your interview in that language. So don't put that you're fluent unless you're fluent. Where did you grow up? So your childhood information, they're trying to get a sense of, did you grow up in an underserved area? Did you have to contribute to your family income? Did you grow up in a place where maybe you didn't have access to some of the things that you should have had access to? Schools in general want to give opportunity to folks who, maybe have had a harder path to get to this point. So if you're somebody who was working when they were 17 and didn't have the opportunity to do academic enrichment programs or go to summer camp, like some other folks may have had the chance to do, then that's something that they want to know about, because it's much harder to get to a point where you're applying to medical school when you don't have access to resources, when you come from a medically underserved area where you've had to use state assistance. If your parents have been working a couple of jobs when you're growing up and you don't have a parent to take care of you. It's the same thing with how you paid for your undergraduate degree. So my experience has been that people who have grown up with a lot of hardship don't want to disclose that, because who wants to? But this is a place that you really should put that information out there. It's not going to be common information or common knowledge when you get to medical school. It is really important to share that information with them. Military information, felonies and misdemeanors, hopefully nobody has them, but if you do need to explain that. And then it will ask you, do you wish to be considered as disadvantaged? And then it allows you to do a little write-up here. And again, a lot of people feel like, I don't really want to fill out that box, but if you really consider yourself disadvantaged, it is really important to give them that information so that they understand where you're coming from. They ask for your parents' information. their education. If you're first generation college student, it's harder to get to a point where you're applying to medical school again. So they're looking at your parents' education level, what they do, where they live. So this is just information that they're kind of looking for. Some of the schools want to know, um, your siblings, your family makeup. If you have 5 siblings, having a high income is, you know, it's a lower income if you have 6 people in your household as opposed to if you have 3. So my siblings would all be really happy to know that I've listed them as 29. Yeah. Okay. So, oh. Coursework. So the coursework part is something that is going to take a certain amount of time, and there are a bunch of tutorials on here that I definitely recommend watching, particularly the study abroad tutorial and the current and future tutorial if you haven't graduated yet. There's also an AP coursework and AP credit tutorial that shows you how to enter the AP classes. Basically, you want to enter all of your courses exactly as they appear on your transcript. So when you're putting courses um, onto your application, each class, you want to have your transcripts in front of you. You're going to enter each class exactly as it is, the academic year you took it. Um, with Northeastern, we're on a semester system, so we obviously have fall and spring. Um, for summer 1 and summer 2, you're just going to put summer. Unfortunately, it doesn't have summer 1 or summer 2, so you just designate it as summer. Now, the next thing that is also a little weird for Northeastern is they don't have Midler on here, obviously. And so you're going to designate your years based on credits. So AP credits are kind of bundled in with your freshman credits. And then you're going to sort of think about each year is 32 credits. So your freshman year is the first 32 credits-ish, because a lot of you have labs, so they're a little bit more than that. And then after that, each year, like sophomore year, is the next 1.5, 2 semesters, sort of 32 credits-ish. So you're going to sort of bundle the credits. Typically, each year is either 1.5, or 2 semesters. Put them together in a bundle in the way that makes the most sense. So sometimes you'll get to 64 credits, which is for most people the end of sophomore year, and you'll be in the middle of a semester. So figure out, well, does it make more sense to put it with, this semester that I'm in the middle of with the sophomore year or with the junior year? Um, and put it in the category that makes more sense. Basically, you want the classes to sort of be evenly distributed over the 4 years. That's the ultimate goal. You're going to put in course number, course name exactly as it is on the application. And then you're going to classify each course in terms of all of these different categories. Now, this is how they figure out your science GPA. To clarify, AP credits, yeah, so watch the AP video, but most people do put the AP credits in the freshman year, and then when you are filling out the form, you'll just click off this AP box, and add that on there. And yes, in terms of co-op, co-op shows as 0 courses, but you still put it on and you just list that it has 0 courses, and you list it as pass-fail. And in terms of category for co-op, you're going to list it as other. So it does show up on your transcript. You want to put it on your application, and you want it also to be there just to show the schools that you were doing something during that time, because otherwise they're going to be confused, like what was happening then. Because remember, they don't get an official copy of your transcript, so they won't know that you were doing co-op if it's not on there. So that will help them to understand what you were doing during that time. So you're going to enter the classes. You're going to choose a course classification. They AMCAS is going to figure out your GPA, so they're going to take all of the classes that you enter from all of the different schools and figure out an AMCAS GPA for you. So anything that's entered as biology, chemistry, math, or physics is going to go into your science GPA. Anything that isn't entered as in those four majors are going to go as non-science, and then everything will be combined into your overall GPA. If you wound up taking a medical leave and you got W's for all of your classes, you'll enter those classes, and there's a box down here to check for withdrew for classes. So you'll just put the W's on there. So they'll see them on the transcript, and they'll see that you just withdrew from those classes. Dialogues have a third 0 credit course that shows on the transcript. Just put it in exactly as it is there. You can put it as, I would say you could probably either do as exempt or pass fail. Check and see if there's a pass fail next to it. If there's a grade next to it, then put it as pass fail. If not, you would just leave it as either exempt or no record. So it's a special course type. But yes, anything that is on your transcript, you need to put on the application. And so when AMCAS is reviewing and verifying your application, they're going to look at your transcript, they're going to look at what's on there, and they're going to look at what you put down, and they're going to change anything that they think is incorrect. So if they look at it and they're like, oh, that's not right, they're going to change it. And most applications, they do change a few things, and they may update those things and say, oh, no, that's not correct. And so they may change it. So how do you add psych classes that are like clinical neuroscience that you feel are biology classes? So biochemistry, you'll list it as a biology class because it's biology. So if the class is listed, so if you think about it, there are 3 separate GPAs, right? There's the science GPA, there's the all other, and then there's the cumulative. No matter where you put everything, it's going to go into the cumulative. The schools are going to look first at your cumulative GPA, then at your science GPA, and then at all other, because they don't want you to have a 4.0 in your non-science classes and a 3.0 in your science classes and have a 3.6. And then say, hey, I'm a good applicant, because you don't have the grades in the sciences that they need. That's why they pull out the sciences. It's this course classification that puts the classes into that science GPA, right? If you check biology, chemistry, math, or physics. So if you took a BNS class that is really heavy science based, so let's say you took neuropsych, and you're like, well, that class was really a biology class. You're going to list it, you're just going to classify it as biology. Now, the person who verifies your application could say, no, that's not biology. That is, in fact, a behavioral and social science. So they could change it back. If they do that, they're just going to change it. They're going to finish verifying your application. They'll send it back to you. You'll see it's been changed. If you do something like here, I have intro to psych, and let's say I list intro to psych as a biology class. If I start doing things like that are obviously like, no, that's not correct, they're going to send it back to me and they're going to say, do this right, right? So if it makes sense that, okay, it's a neuro class, it's a biology class, then, they'll probably verify it and say it's correct. Or if they just aren't going to verify and say it's correct, they'll change it. And most people do have some things on their application that have been changed. And so that's fine. they'll just move it on through. For biochemistry, listed as biology, it doesn't matter whether it's biology or chemistry because it's going to be put into the science GPA. The schools are going to see it's got a biology course number, but it's biochemistry. So that doesn't really matter. So in the end, what the schools are going to be seeing is they're going to be seeing this list of classes that are consistent between every applicant. They're going to get an application that has next to each course, it'll have an X if they changed it or an O if it was fine and they didn't change it. So when you get your application back after it's been verified, you really want to make sure to look at it and make sure, did they change things and do you agree with what they changed? And usually it's fine. But if they change something and you're like, they changed your biology out of biology, you have to be like, well, wait a second, I don't agree with that. And you're going to have to contest that with AMCAS because that's obviously not okay. So you want to definitely look at it and make sure that it is verified correctly. Does that make sense? It is very confusing. It's a very confusing process. The bottom line and the overall thing to think with this, do your best with it. They always seem to change a few things for most people. As long as you've done your best, they're going to fix it for you and move it on through. And that's the most important piece of it. Work and activities. So you have the opportunity to enter up to 15 work and activities. And for each of these, you really want to focus on what you learned and what you accomplished. This is not a resume, so don't focus on tasks. Remember that what you did in your co-op experiences, in your clubs, your clinical experiences, they're really great experiences, but they're not what you're going to do as a doctor, right? In your research, you have done a lot of hands-on stuff, but the doctor is going to have you in the future to do all of that stuff. So as a physician, you're not going to be doing the things that you were doing usually. So they're not as concerned with the specific tasks that you fulfilled. They're more concerned with what did you contribute? What did you learn? How did this contribute to your interest in being a physician? Now, you have the opportunity to choose 3 experiences as most meaningful, and you want to remember your audience. This is 3 experiences that are most meaningful to you in regard to your application to your medical program. So you want to choose 3 things. Most people will choose a clinical experience, a research experience, and then something that kind of shows who they are as an individual. So something that maybe is a leadership experience, maybe it's a service experience, maybe it's something unique about them. They're an athlete or a musician. So something that kind of sets them apart from other applicants. So these are a few descriptions that people have written, and they gave me their permission to include in here. So this is a service experience that somebody wrote about. Now you'll see you can add start and end dates here, and then they ask for total hours. You may not know the exact number of hours, but you can guesstimate. So let's say you worked 4 hours a week for the semester, and that's about 50 hours. It may not have been exactly 50 hours, maybe it was 48, maybe it was 52, but they're trying to get, is it 5 hours, is it 50, is it 500, is 5,000? So you're going to guesstimate. Don't overestimate radically, but also don't underestimate radically. If you did something like you did this every time you were in classes and not when you were in co-op, you can add repeat also. And a lot of the time people will do this when they were on co-op and they worked someplace full time and then they stayed on per diem and they continued to work someplace. So you can show that it was full time here and then for these dates it was part time. Organization name, the contact information that you're going to enter here, This contact information is hopefully going to be a supervisor. If there's no longer a supervisor, you want somebody who can verify that you actually did it, whether it's HR, the volunteer office. You want they don't usually call people, but they do spot check these applications. And sometimes they will call just to make sure that you actually did what you said you did. So you want there to be somebody who can say, that you want there to be somebody who can say, yes, this person was here. So if you work full-time, then part-time, then full-time again, yes, I would just list it as 3 separate date ranges. So just do repeat and do 3 separate times, because otherwise it's really confusing. But you can show the number of hours that you work there. So here's a description that somebody wrote up about her work at the Samaritans. I really like this description because she, in one sentence, talks about what she did there. So she doesn't spend a lot of time talking about the specific task, but she talks about what her role was. She talks about what she learned from it. And she talks about that in regard to the competencies that the medical schools are looking for. And she talks about what she's going to be able to take forward with her into medical school. Skills handling stressful situations, remaining calm, clear-headed. She learned about the type of people that she's going to be working with as a medical student or as a physician. So a question here, what do we list for student organizations without the significant involvement of an advisor or faculty member? You can list the club president if they're going to be remaining club president for the next year, or you can list the advisor and just let the advisor know that you're going to be listing them. Or you can talk to somebody in student affairs in the student activities office who is the student activities advisor. Okay, so here's another activity that somebody wrote up about their adaptive skating program that they participated in. So they talk a little bit, I really like this because he was able to talk here. I really enjoy playing hockey. So here he's sharing a little something about him. I, I've played hockey throughout high school. In general, you don't talk about your high school experiences, but here he's been able to kind of wiggle in, okay, I've done hockey for my entire life, or at least throughout high school. And then here he's also being able to talk about, well, this is how I participated in this experience, and here's how it's helped me in sort of a clinical setting. And then for most meaningful experiences, so this is a most meaningful experience from somebody who is a child life volunteer at Boston Children's Hospital. With the most meaningful experiences, you get an extra 1,325 characters to talk about your experience. So you really want to think about what are all of the things that I want to share about this experience, and how do I show that this is something that has been most meaningful, and convey to the schools and the admissions committees the importance of this commitment or this activity, either in my decision to become a physician, in my development as an applicant or as a future doctor, or in who I am as a person, and how who I am as a person will impact me as a physician or as a medical student. So I really like this. I regularly have weekly blocks scheduled with specific patients for tea parties or trains. That was my favorite sentence because it makes this sort of abstract experience so human, and it makes it so relatable, and it makes you able to see he must have made a big difference because he's making weekly appointments for tea parties. So thinking about the little details in a way that you can show the schools, okay, this is how I really interacted, as opposed to always being broad picture. Letters. Okay. Okay, here's a question. How do I split up information between 700 character and the longer one? Yeah, so you really want to use the most meaningful ones, and think about, okay, describe the character, describe the experience here, and why have you selected it as most meaningful? So consider the transformative nature of the experience. So think about the first half of the description is a description just like any other description. And the second half, you're really talking about, why is this description so important? How did I grow as a part of this description? So you really want to show the schools, why does this particular description matter so much to me? And by telling them that, you tell them about who you are as an individual and as an applicant. So letter requests. So everybody is going to add, hopefully you guys are all getting letters from Northeastern. So if you qualified for a committee letter, you're going to add a letter of recommendation and click committee letter, and you're just going to give it a title, select Northeastern, and then either enter CR or I as your letter writer. If you didn't qualify for a committee letter, then you'll do a letter packet. Letters that are sent through MAP, you don't add separately. So only for all of the letters that came through MAP, you're just going to add one committee letter or one letter packet. Most people are just going to have the committee letter. It's pretty extensive. Typically, the only reason that you would have an individual letter on top of your committee letter would be if you have somebody who's writing a letter for a specific school. So once you add that, a letter will come up here. It allows you to generate a letter request form. You do not need to send that to us. We upload these letters through a portal, so we don't need the letter request form. So this page just has you add the letters. The next thing that you'll do is you'll come to this medical schools. This is where you add your schools. So this is where you decide where you're applying. Now, you have the option to just apply regular MD, combined programs. So this is MD, PhD, combined graduate, undergraduate. So for example, when I go into BU to add the school, I can apply regular MD, I can apply early decision. For BU, this is restricted program. You can decide to do a combined medical degree and graduate degree, and when you click on that box, other options will open up. Or you can decide to do a combined program, and then you add which specialty within the MD, PhD. Have you applied before? And then you choose which letters are going there. So for all of your schools, you're going to have your committee letter sent there. So you're just going to select, okay, I'm having my committee letter sent there. If you have a separate letter for one particular program, you would just add it for that one specific program. And then this just tells you that the letters are going to be sent, and it lets you know what kind of criminal background check that particular school is going to require from you. So apparently I was feeling very ambitious. I decided I was going to apply for an MD, PhD in clinical research from Harvard. And so when I did this, it activated an extra screen, which we'll see in the next section. So I'm going to add one more medical school. So it'll allow you, it will show you by state, and I really like Hawaii. So I'm going to look at regular MD programs in Hawaii, and there's of course only one. So it's going to pop right up. I'm going to choose regular MD. I have not applied before. I'm going to have my committee letter sent there, and then I'm going to save that. So it's just going to keep adding the schools. So you're going to keep adding the schools. Notice that as you add more schools, it costs more and more money. Now this is 5 schools and it's already $326. This is part of why we do not recommend applying to 30 schools, right? It's going to get expensive doing this, so we really recommend limit yourself 20 max. Yeah. Essays. So if you're just applying MD, you will have a space here for your personal statement, and it will let you copy and paste. Actually, one really important thing, and everybody please write this down, when you're putting your personal statement in here, it does this weird thing. When you just tab to space, it does not recognize that tab. It doesn't keep that formatting. So make sure that you hit enter and that each paragraph has a line between it in terms on the paper. So I would like to be a doctor, please. Oops, please accept me. Oops. This is how it should look. It should not look like, whoops. See, it's not even letting me tab here. So it should not look like this. This is 2 separate paragraphs. There needs to be a line between them. If you don't do it like this, it will put your entire personal statement together as one block. It's just one paragraph, and that's really hard for the admissions people to read. They don't like it. So please try not to do that. Make sure that there is that line in between paragraphs in your personal statement. If you're applying MD, PhD, you will have to write 2 additional essays that will be forwarded only to MD, PhD programs. Why do you want to get an MD, PhD? How much research experience do you have? And what are your research experiences? And your problem studied? What's the direction of your research that you're really interested in? And then with the standardized tests, it will send your MCAT score. If you have a future test, you can put that in here so that they'll know not to look at your application until the future test is received. They're not going to look at your application until your tests are in, so make sure that all of the tests are, like, if you're taking it June 30th, we will still write you a committee letter, but know that you're really kind of applying late at that point. So you really want to make sure that you're applying in a reasonable timeline. And then we save that. And once you've saved everything, you want to go back to your main menu. You're going to print out your application, look it over, proof it for any errors, any problems, any issues that you might have, because you want to make sure that you're not submitting it with a typo. If you submit it with a typo, the typo is going to stay. You can't change it once you've submitted it, and that will make you sad. So really make sure that you have people proofread it for grammar and spelling and all that, but also make sure you have people proofread it to just make sure that you're giving them the impression of you that you want to give. It's a good idea to have one person who's good at grammar and writing and editing be your last proofreader so that you don't have a lot of different people's voices coming through. You sort of have your voice primarily, and if there is a second voice, it's that last person who has read it. And then May 31st, probably around 9:30, this button will be active and you can push submit, and that will be exciting. And you can, yeah. So you'll be able to track your statuses here, obviously. Once you submit, you're going to download your application, upload it to MAP, and then you're going to let either Sierra or I know that you've applied so we can put you in the queue to write your letter. We were writing a lot of letters this year, so applying early, applying the morning of the 31st is going to make a difference in the timeline of getting your letter. So additional questions about the MD application. I am going to walk through the DO application. The dental application is not open yet, but it is the same format or the same platform as the DO application, so it's very similar. So questions that anybody has about the application before I sort of move on to the dental and DO application platform, and actually the veterinary one too. Okay, great. Thanks everybody for coming if you've just come for the MD application. And I will be sending a video of this out, and I look forward to starting to see your applications. Feel free to send me an email if you, or Sierra, if she did your interview, if you do have questions that come up. So I'm going to log in here to my DO application just to show people, whoops, sorry. This is just to show people the differences between, whoops, sorry. Most of the things, oh, hmm. Okay, I don't know why it's doing that. So most of the things between the MD application and the DO and dental application are exactly the same. There are a few differences, but for the most part, they're very similar. So we're gonna try this again. Here we are logging in. Okay, so here we are. We are now on the dashboard, and this dashboard is pretty much the same. This one, like I said, is for the osteopathic medical schools, but it's the same for dental and veterinary. It's the same platform. It's really actually a lot easier to use than the MD one. So you have a really nice dashboard here. You're going to enter your personal information in here. We do, again, require that you release your information to us. And it will ask, do you want to get text messages, other stuff it just requires you to have sent. Contact information, biographical information, citizenship. The big difference for the DO application is that they do ask if you have any family members who are MDs or DOs, and they ask, where did you learn about osteopathic medicine? And they ask, have you ever met with an osteopathic college or ACOM representative? So it is a good idea if you can, at least to hear a presentation by an osteopathic college representative. They will be having a presentation up at Unicom in early June. So, you could plan for going to that, which describes your prior career. Most of you guys are going to say student on that one. And, this information is pretty much the same. They're looking at disadvantaged status. They're looking at academic infractions, felonies, misdemeanors, legal status, language information. Okay. Then we go to academic history, same thing here. You're going to enter your high school, your colleges, same thing. You're just going to put all of that information in. You're going to enter your transcripts. Again, same thing. The folks from this application platform do have this feature where if you don't want to enter your own coursework, they will do it for you. So you can send them transcripts, and they have a professional transcript entry service, just $65 for up to 3 transcripts, or $90 for 4 to 6 transcripts. So that is something that is an option. Otherwise, you're just going to go in, you're going to enter your information from your transcripts. Again, just the same way as you would from your undergrad, or for the AMCAS application. It is a little bit easier interface, biology. So same thing. Continuing education courses. Let me just delete this. Fine. Continuing education courses. If you've taken like an EMT class, a CNA class, that's something that you can add here. Something that you got a certificate for, you can add that. And if you did that, you can upload a copy of your certificate. If you have done that, it's a good thing to do. And then standardized tests, you'll add your MCAT score. You put your AMC ID in here. Remember, and it says here, you must contact AAMC to have your MCAT score released to ACOMAS. It does not get automatically sent, so it is important that you do have to go in and get it sent to ACOMAS. And then the same thing, you'll enter your evaluations. Now, when you create a letter of recommendation request, you'll do it in here. This asks you for a due date. We request that you put, like a month from when you from when you have requested it. Our process is going to be that we write the letters in order that we receive the requests. So we're going to write your letter when your turn comes up, no matter what the due date says. The due dates are really for people who aren't familiar with the process. So if your due date passes and your letter is not in, nothing is going to happen. So we do require that you do need to fill this out. It will send us an email, and then that email contains a link that we upload your committee letter or letter packet through. The same is true with the dental application. It's the same process. So there isn't an interface. We do need this information entered. Experiences, same thing. You're going to add your experiences, employment, extracurriculars, non-healthcare volunteer experience, and healthcare experience. Organizations, and you'll just enter the characters in here. For dental schools, I'm not sure what the character count is. I'm not sure if they've changed them. It's typically much shorter for the dental schools, and you get a lot fewer characters. You don't for DO programs, you don't get to designate 3 as most significant. For dental school, you get to designate 3 as most significant, but you don't get more characters to write about them. Instead, those 3 that you designate as most important or most significant appear on a cover page that the school sees, like, just really fast. They can see, okay, they've done dental work, they've worked with a dentist, they've done this volunteer work, they've done research. So you want to think about, if somebody's just looking at your application at a cover sheet really quickly, what do you want them to know that you have done? And you definitely want a dental experience on there. If you have different types of dental experience, you probably want to put 2 types of dental experience. Research is a nice to have. It kind of sets you apart for dentistry, so you might want to put that on there. And then the achievements, scholarships, honors, awards, presentations, etc. Your personal statement gets uploaded here, and it tells you how many characters you have. Same thing as the MD application. One of the nice things about this application is that you will add your school. So after you filled that out, you go in and you add the programs that you're planning to apply for. And when you do that, so let's say, I really want to go to Unicom. And it will tell you this is when all your information has to be in. Now I go back to my application and I go to program materials, and I can see these are the 3 schools that I've chosen to apply to so far. So when I look at Unicom, I can see a description of the school. I can see the prerequisites, and they require that you go to the transcript entry and match up the prerequisite with their requirements. So it's really easy for them to see, yes, I've taken all of these classes. They also frequently have the secondaries embedded right in here. So for a lot of these schools, you can see the questions right within here. It's interesting. Unicom asks, how many osteopathic schools have you applied to? How many allopathic schools have you applied to? And they actually have a pretty big, bunch of questions in the secondaries. So a lot of the schools will include the secondaries right within the application. So everything is right here within your dashboard. You go in here to submit your application. You can see the total fee. You'll push submit to submit your application. Once you've submitted, you're able to download your application. The same is true of the dental. So you'll just download one application to upload to Maps. So you'll choose one school, download a copy of it, save that to your computer, upload it to Map, and email us to let us know that you've submitted. And of course, there's a check status page here. So you can see, okay, am I? And you can download your application from here as well. And you can see, are my transcripts here? Are my letters here? I didn't put in a letter request, so it's not listed there. So it is actually a really nice interface. You can see the instructions in FAQ here, and there's a link to email here. Also, there's a lot of notifications that you'll get. I fill this application out every year, and as we get closer to spring, I keep getting notifications. You still haven't applied. So you'll definitely get a lot of notifications through the system. So that is how the interface works for dental, osteopathic, and veterinary schools as well. So I don't know if there are any questions about that. So thanks everybody for coming. Definitely remember you want to submit early. That is really important. Remember to proofread everything because once you submit it, you can't change anything. Remember, we do require that you release your application to us, and we look forward to seeing those applications soon. So we will talk to you soon, and I hope that it's a beautiful day where you are as it is here, and that you get to enjoy some of it. So have a good day. Bye.